Fox News alert, in case you are just turning on the news and haven't looked at the internet. The Dow had a dismal day, a dramatic record tumble of 1,175 points, erasing all the gains for the year. Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino brings us up to speed on what happened. Charlie. All right, I guess we do not have Charlie. You guys 401ks and your investments getting slammed?
I would say this is the thing. Having been the press secretary that had the most dramatic stock market ups and downs,
yes.
I would say that everyone should just remain very calm.
Buy now.
Probably buy, right, if you're being smart. But
Dana, the only thing lower than the stock market is Jesse Waters' voice from The Hangover. From The Hangover,
I was trying to help him.
Oh my God. I saw you reading the teleprompter, and when you got to the numbers, your brain froze. You was like you didn't even know what to do.
That's why I'm not on Wall Street. I'm in television.
I was trying to help you out.
I needed a lifeline there. All right, so what do we do? Do we sell? Do we buy? I think everybody buys. No one knows why either that this thing's tanking. I guess they're going to raise rates because the economy under Trump is doing so well. Charlie, save us, please.
Save Jesse.
This is called a puke, guys. There's nothing there's nothing nice you could say about what happened here. What you have is the market reacting to the possibility of higher interest rates, bigger deficits, leading to even higher interest rates, more inflation because the economy is revving up, and it's trying to digest all that. As it's digesting that, it is getting sick, and you have what we've had over the last couple of weeks. I will say one thing. President Trump did a massive tax cut. When you do something that big, you may get some inflation, but guess what? Corporate balance sheets should be better. We're going to get some job growth. That and our deficit should, at some point, when the economy starts growing again in a 3.5% rate, which a lot of people think it will, that deals with the deficit, which keeps down the interest rate. So, this is, in my view, okay. Now, I'm not an economist. I've been through a lot of these market corrections, but in my view, this thing is temporary. The one thing I will say, someone should tell Trump to stop talking about the markets. It's not a good thing to be touting the market going up because they always correct. I mean, from a political standpoint, he should stick to the economy, which obviously is getting better.
All right. Well, I don't think he's going to listen. I think he's going to continue to tout
and he's
the
going to look
stock
stupid
market. Then. All right. We'll take it from there. Thanks a lot.
All right.
All right. Now to our other top story, much more important. It took 52 years, but the wait is finally over. Yay. Philadelphia, finally, Super Bowl champs.
Brady under pressure. Escapes the sack, launching one for the end zone. It's a jump ball, and it's incomplete. And Gronk was there. And time runs out.
Amazing game. I knew they were going to win. I called it. Predicted it on the show. We can even pull the tape. Eagles beat the Pats for the first time ever, winning a 41-33 first Super Bowl victory. Entire city of Philadelphia handling it, as you'd expect, with class. Oh, God. All right. What a night for backup quarterback, though. Nick Foles, absolute hero this postseason, outplayed Tom Brady in Minneapolis, winning the MVP. Nick, I love you. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
And God has certainly blessed the Philadelphia.
Oh, my God. Was that like a weird
I love him.
man crush?
I love him. I love every player on the team. An amazing victory. Juan, let's just talk about the game for a second. And I want to play this highlight for you. This, I think, encapsulates everything. And the great line of the whole thing was, Brady can't catch and Nick Foles can. Here's a little play they dialed up for Brady. Little trick play. Flea flicker to him. Right off his hands, okay? Guy can't catch. That was a critical possession right there. That would have been a first down and keep the drive alive. Brady can't do everything wrong. And then we have Nick Foles. They dial up a flea flicker, direct snap flea flicker, 4th and 1.
Flea flicker.
Right before the half. 4th and goal. And that puts him ahead going into the second half. That was I think it takes a lot to call that play in that situation. Juan, what'd you think?
I just loved it. What's interesting to me about the Brady thing is that people are now criticizing Bill Belichick, the genius coach of the Patriots, because his quarterback's hand was injured, and it had been injured, and he's been wearing gloves. And now I think there was no glove on the right hand last night. But, to ask the guy to go out there and catch a pass at 40 years old, and gosh, what if he had gotten hit? Some linebacker came across and crunched him. It would not have been a celebration in Boston. But anyway, the other play in which Foles catches it, to me, I thought, boy, that's high risk, 4th down. I'm surprised they went for it. And then to do that, you got to take your hat off to the Philly coach.
That's right. Doug Peterson had a great scheme, and they executed it perfectly. Dana, your mascot theory, correct.
I'm 6 for 6
Yeah,
on this
really?
show every year.
Wow.
Yes, 6 for 6. So follow me. I just don't. What is a flea flicker?
When they have the ball in the backfield and they pitch it to someone else and he throws it.
I never heard that. I wanted one clarification about the controversial touchdown.
Which one? There's 2.
Was there 2?
Yeah.
Well, okay, the one where the catcher becomes a runner?
Yeah, he actually broke the plane. We got a lot of lucky calls. That was the second
catcher?
lucky.
You mean the receiver?
Receiver?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he caught the ball.
This is not ESPN, America. If you think you're watching
I don't
ESPN,
know why Jesse came to me next. You should really go to
Sports
Kimberly.
Center. What do you think,
can I
Greg?
talk about the most important thing of the
This is
night?
one of our best shows.
Yes, exactly.
6 minutes in, and people are like, I just became really stupid watching the
I
show.
know. I want to talk about the worst thing from last night is the Philadelphia fan who actually ate horse poop. I don't know if you
Wait,
saw
I
that.
don't think we have that.
You don't have that tape?
Hopefully we don't have
This
that.
man will never have. This man will never have coital relations again. He can't have a job or a family and go into this. You can look it up. Okay,
Why did you bring that
I'll
up?
tell you why I'm bringing it up. Because if you laugh when you watch these events, you're a hypocrite. Because we do these shows where we talk about Antifa and looting and how bad it is when you destroy public and private property.
Right.
And somehow we find this kind of behavior after a sporting event acceptable. You shouldn't have. This is not acceptable behavior. You didn't have any role in the team winning. It's not an achievement on your part. And to go and destroy things is disgusting.
Well, you don't know what it's like to be a Philly fan. So I think we're going to give him a little slack.
I knew you were going
Kimberly?
to say that. I mean, they have been waiting for so long to get some kind of victory here. Obviously, everybody knows that the Philadelphia Eagles fans, this is the way they roll. Whether you win or lose, this is the way they roll. Yes, but as a former prosecutor, I'm not going to be hypocritical. In fact, I think it is inappropriate. We don't need to be lighting things on fire.
Yes.
We don't need to be flipping buses, but at least, unlike, Antifa, they didn't stab a horse.
Right, that's
I
true.
saw, but
And
they ate
just-
from one. They ate from one.
They did something with a horse.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the performances. Pink, okay, she had the flu. And I think she paid respect to the red, white, and blue. Here is her rendition of the anthem. So, Greg, you didn't like that.
Oh no! How dare you? No. The one thing I don't like is when they change the note at the end to surprise you. Like, we're gonna go high. No, I'm going low. But you know what's interesting is we didn't have the clip of her when she spit her lozenge out
I saw that.
and onto the head of a sick child.
Oh,
I couldn't believe she did that.
That is fake news. What did you think of that performance?
I liked Pink, and I liked the guy that sang before, America the Beautiful.
That was a nice
He was
rendition.
good.
He was excellent.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I like the children's choir with him. I like it when they bring the community out for the game.
That was great. And then I think we have some footage of Justin Timberlake. He did the halftime performance, and people liked it, and then some people didn't. Let's see it. So they had Prince out there in the hologram. What'd you think, Juan?
No, that wasn't a hologram. In fact, that would have been apparently Prince
Demonic.
objected. Yes, that's what he said.
What was it then?
He said that if people did that, he would consider it demonic. He doesn't like it. He doesn't think it's a good idea. He thinks when Natalie Cole was doing it with her dad, Nat King Cole, he thought it was wrong. He said if he was supposed to play with Duke Ellington, he would have been alive at the same time. But I happen to think that holograms are pretty cool. I remember being in Vegas and seeing that Michael Jackson one thinking, this is unbelievable. And I think
That was
that's
actually Michael Jackson.
No, it was like that. Well, I think that was
He's still
what they
alive.
wanted to do, but then given that they knew that people were going to criticize it, they just went with the screen. And it was pretty good. I don't think it was like the most memorable halftime show. It didn't match the equipment malfunction.
See, okay, now to that point, I think it would have been more fair because JT was on his best behavior. The hologram or whatever the film should have been Janet. Because why is he there and she's not there? That strikes me as a bit sexist. And the wardrobe was like straight out of a house party from the 90s. I didn't understand it.
You wanted another nip slip. That's what you wanted.
No, I can't say I would want that. I just think it's unfair that he's there and she's not.
Let's look at some of the ads. Here's the Giants ad, which got a lot of attention. Let's see that one.
So I'll tell you something. It's good to know because I had the time of my life.
Odell and Eli. Kimberly, what'd you think?
I love that move.
You did?
Well, no, I mean, I like to do it.
Oh, you like, okay. You like to be hoisted up like that.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Very, very.
No, but I thought that was a really good commercial. And in fact, the dancing was better than the Justin Timberlake thing. I don't know. I don't think that, like, the Justin Timberlake thing was that good. Prince kind of performed better.
You liked the Justin Timberlake performance.
Yeah, but I keep liking things that nobody else likes, like the Joe Kennedy speech last week. So I'm 2 for 2. But I just thought it was entertaining. I liked that ad. The Mannings are pretty funny.
That was a good ad. I think it cost about $5 million for that one.
Maybe they could put that into the recruitment for next year's team.
I think so. I think the Giants need a little help. That's good, Dana, that you actually knew the Giants were that bad.
Excellent list.
All right, stay right there. Much more to come on the 5. Breaking new developments on the memo when we return.
All right, that we know about.
The interest wasn't oversight. The interest was a political hit job on the FBI in the service of the president. The goal here is to undermine the FBI, discredit the FBI, discredit the Mueller investigation, do the president's bidding.
Adam Schiff, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, still on a tear about the GOP memo that alleges the FBI and DOJ abused the FISA process to surveil former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Democrats want their own version out to the public, and there could be a vote on that soon. Meanwhile, the president called Schiff one of the biggest liars and leakers in Washington, who must be stopped today. The congressman is firing back. Mr. President, I see you've had a busy morning of executive time. The primary author of the memo, Devin Nunes, piling on his Democratic colleague.
If you look what they've done over the course of the last couple of weeks since we put together our memo so that we could make sure the American public discovered the FISA abuses that occurred, they've continued to leak out bits and pieces of information to create narratives that, quite frankly, have one thing in common: they're always false. Mr. Schiff knows that he's spreading false narrative there, but that's not new for him. He spread false narrative the entire time.
Okay, so the president, Dana, calling him a liar and a leaker who must be stopped today. Ahora.
I know. So over the weekend, I tried to take a step back, and I figured I'm going to let all of this settle and then read a couple more things when I start on Monday, just to see where people are. And I feel like it's we're at the same place that we were on Friday, except for that the Democrats have sort of advanced their agenda by, one, responding to the president the way that they had after he, whether it's punching or counterpunching, I have lost count. I do think that this question of whether the underlying documents are going to be revealed is still an open question. On Friday night, Devin Nunes was on Bret Baier's show for an exclusive interview, and Brett asked him if he had read the underlying documents, and he said no, but that Trey Gowdy had, the congressman from South Carolina, overseeing the Oversight Committee. And I'm wondering about if the Intelligence Committee folks are not all read in on exactly what's happening underneath. Should these documents actually be released to all of us? Because I don't know what the context is, and I don't know if it's a really good idea to start disseminating to the public information that is supposed to be for investigations. I think it's kind of dangerous. The other thing is I just feel like a lot of the timeline doesn't make sense to me, especially that the memo talks about Carter Page and this FISA warrant in October of 2016 when he'd left the campaign a month before in September. And then according to the timeline, the counterintelligence investigation started 3 months before that. So I'm not even sure what Carter Page could have even told anybody on any sort of wiretap that would have been relevant to the Trump campaign if he'd left. So I think there's a lot of open questions.
Okay, so Greg, Dana thinks perhaps it might be, an imprudent escalation to then try to now release the Democratic side and go back and forth.
Well, I'm okay with releasing it. I think the Democrats should be allowed. I just wonder about these underlying documents.
The underlying documents that perhaps obviously could have some national security implications.
I'm always first to state the obvious. We're seeing, this is another example of team sport politics. Reminds me of that. I think we did this segment on the 5. What was the color of the dress? And some people saw the color of the dress as gold.
One was gold and I think blue.
And the other was blue. So one side will always see this one way, one side will see the other. Having said that, Andrew McCarthy, I think, really nailed it down in National Review. He responded to Gerald Nadler's letter. And he says it's not about Steele being reputable in his dossier. It's not about him being, he's an upstanding guy. It's not about that. It's about his sources. Remember, he didn't write the dossier. He simply delivered it. So the FBI and the DOJ should have been put more emphasis on that, because anybody, a capable person could put together a report on you. With unvetted sources. Are you happy that the government used a capable person? Then that's okay with you, that they use anonymous sources saying crappy stuff about you? So that's important. But the thing that kind of gets me is the Dems, you keep hearing this like, releasing this memo is a constitutional crisis. Well, how can that be a constitutional crisis and trying to unseat a president, general election, not be a constitutional crisis? I think trying to steal an election from the American public is a constitutional crisis. Releasing, and obviously, a memo that has some kind of political opinion in it. Let's be honest. It's done by a Republican. There's going to be, again, there's two sides. So that is far from a crisis. But somehow generating and ginning up this scandal to steal an election, that's a crisis.
I agree.
Or it could be a crisis.
Wait a second. Who ginned up a scandal? The scandal was that the Russians interfered in our election.
There's no collusion.
Oh, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, that's the real scandal. You said the Democrats
was collusion.
dreamt this up. The Democrats didn't dream anything
The Russians
up.
interfere in everything. And no, we know
so
that.
we should minimize it?
No, this is about collusion. I'm waiting for the collusion.
Okay, but I'm just saying
people who are going to wage war.
Let me tell you, you can portray this as some kind of coup, but the coup would have been if, in fact, we have a candidate running as an agent of a foreign government and elected.
But you have nothing there.
There's no evidence to produce. No evidence has been produced to substantiate that claim.
What ifs are beautiful? They are.
What ifs? There's no what if about Russians interfering in this election.
They interfere in everything.
There's no what if about the Russians favoring Donald Trump. And there's no what if.
You can't blame the president for that. He didn't even call up and go, hey, Russians, interfere with the election, and could you choose me over Hillary Clinton?
Kimberly, what about Donald Jr.
Did it have any impact on the election?
Jr. going right to Trump Tower with a Russian and saying, I'm looking for dirt on Hillary Clinton?
Where did the dossier information come from? Russians.
Oh, please.
Case closed.
And let me just say, let's go back to Dana's point.
Then we got to get Jesse in. I want to make sure he's still alive.
Totally makes no sense, Devin Nunes's attempt to say that the timeline fits and this is the basis, because guess what? They already were looking at Carter Page from 2013.
And why were they looking at him? He was actually cooperating with the FBI.
No, because the Russians tried to recruit him, Greg.
Yes, and he cooperated.
Oh, my God.
He cooperated.
Let me just say,
he may not be the brightest
Greg,
guy
you are
in the...
looking under the table in order to avoid
How dare you?
the
Why would I look under the table?
Because
I'm
you're
not some kind of pervert.
Yeah, but I'm just here's the weird part.
Head out of the gutter.
Why not release the Democrats? You guys are always about transparency.
Yo, do it.
Oh, wait. But Donald Trump says he's vindicated.
Nice straw man, Juan. Nice straw man.
Donald Trump is a straw man?
No, you're creating a straw man argument. I'm for releasing the memo.
Well, you should be.
My goodness, this is getting crazy. So to make
Bring Jesse into this.
Make less sense, Jesse.
Listen, guys, here's the truth. The Obama officials used fake information and got the court to justify spying on the Trump campaign. They lied to the court, Juan.
You think
it was a lie of omission. They did not include the fact that the dossier was the reason for the spying.
They did did not.
The dossier was kept from the judge. They didn't say
Wait a
that it was paid for by Hillary.
Wait a second. I
And
thought
that's
the
how they
argument
got
was the judge was
spying
given the
done.
dossier. Now you're saying the dossier
No,
was
they
kept
didn't
from
say
the
the
judge.
dossier was paid for by Hillary and
Paid
was
for
written
by
by
Hillary.
Steele.
The judge knew.
Why didn't they tell the judge that, Juan?
They did.
Because they knew they would never
In
have
fact-
gotten the spying done if
let me
it
just
wasn't
say-
for that.
You know how?
That's why.
You know how weak you are. Because guess
we
what?
just won the
You
Super Bowl.
had- I'm all for that. You're
Wait,
strong on that.
again, we must separate the fans from the players.
I'll tell you
Okay?
how weak you are, Juan. If it's not a scandal on your side, why is everybody getting demoted? Why is everybody
Who's getting
retiring
demoted?
early?
Wait,
what do you mean?
are you talking
Strzok,
about Republicans?
Page, Strzok, Page,
Oh,
or
I see.
all these
Me and
people,
Lisa, not
McCabe,
Carter.
all these people on that side
I see.
must be guilty of something because they're actually now getting in trouble. The other thing is you're spying on Carter Page for all these years. Where's
Why?
the collusion? He hasn't even been charged.
And he was cooperating.
He hasn't even been charged,
I
Juan.
know, therefore
Where's the dirt? There's no
know.
dirt. You have
Spotless,
nothing.
spotless. Where's
the
And
beef?
now there's more memos coming, so that's why you guys are getting
But it
very
is
nervous.
not remotely clear.
Oh.
Well, none of it is, but that anything that the government would have been listening to with Carter Page, when she's not even on the campaign anymore, would even relate back to the Trump campaign or the Trump family in any way because he wasn't involved. So maybe there was a problem in getting the warrant, and that needs to be looked into. But I also think that the Trump family at this point, I don't know why you would be concerned about Carter Page being listened in on.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have known anything.
Oh, and speaking
assuming.
of, if you want to learn more about Carter Page, then you should watch the Ingram Angle tonight because he's going to be with Laura. That's a tease, isn't it? I'm going to flea flick of this. Ahead, Trey Gowdy shocked a lot of people with his surprise decision to leave Congress, and his explanation might surprise you too. Next, he'll be in Progressive.
Yes, Trey Gowdy is leaving Congress, apparently to spend more time with his hair. I kid, I like the guy, but look at him over the years. He's got a mohawk, goatee, sideburns, then a beard. Then he adds glasses and gets rid of the beard. The guy's more looks than Lady Gaga. Sunday, Gowdy said he's leaving politics because he's lousy at it.
I was a pretty good prosecutor, I think, but I've been a pretty lousy politician. I see multiple sides of a single issue. And the fact that someone disagrees with me does not make me challenge their love of the country. It doesn't make me believe that they're corrupt. I've got a lot of friends on the other side of the aisle. I think the manner in which we get places matters. And in politics, too often, winning is the only thing that matters. And look, every hero I have is lost, every one of them. So losing is not the worst thing in the world. Not knowing what you believe and not caring enough about it to fight for it, that's the worst thing in the world.
Do you think?
Now, underneath that cowlick, he has a point. He's lamenting tribalism, the name-calling, the smearing of intentions by mind-reading adversaries, all driven by team sport politics. Take the memo controversy. It was the Super Bowl for political Poindexters. Everyone took sides even before reading the damn thing. Of course, no one in the media seemed to mind tribalism before, when only one side fought to win. For the left, the politics was always personal and deemed their opponents, the right, as evil. Now, the right has learned from the left, and Republicans are now as feisty as the lefties of old, fueled by a president who may be the least ideological one I've ever seen. The result, a fiery feedback loop where one side accuses the other of divisiveness, which leads to endless counter accusations of the same thing. Yet, simply agreeing that we're all guilty of this might help solve the problem. Will that ever happen? Who knows? Divisiveness is easy and it's profitable, for it feels good to point a finger and label people. And if you disagree with me, you're probably a racist, homophobic traitor. It's true. Kimberly, where do you see him going? Maybe a style segment on Fox and Friends?
Oh my gosh! Come on.
I like him, though.
I'm a fan of his. I think he's really bright. He was a phenomenal prosecutor. He had a great reputation. You know, he handled a large, volume of material and really stuck with it in terms of the Benghazi hearings. And I think he's a virtuous person, and I like what he had to say in terms of being able to see all sides of an issue. And because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that they're a bad person or their politics or their intentions, should be questioned. So I'm excited to see what he does next. I don't know. Maybe here. I'm Jesse.
Yeah, one lucky guy. Hey, Dana, every time we hear about the assessment of intensity and tribalism, every time I think about it, then I think about the past. We've had assassinations and civil wars. So is this idea that we're being divisive a bit overwrought? I mean, we did have an actor kill a president,
I remember when I talked to Mitch McConnell last week, he said, let me put everyone's mind at ease. And he went back and said, we used to actually beat each other up on the floor. And I think that Trey Gowdy seems very relieved. This is a decision that he's wrestled with for the last couple of cycles because he realized, I think, early on that, wow, this might not be for me. There's a lot of different ways that you can serve your country and be a public servant, and you don't always have to run for office. It's the endless fundraising, the inability to actually do what he wants to do, which is the law. But he is somebody that you would certainly want as your own personal lawyer if he decides to go into law. You would want him as that. But you'd want him as a neighbor or a teacher or a friend, and I think he's going to try to do he's going to teach a little bit as well.
You're like a neighbor.
I'm a big fan. And
you know what?
Ever since the Benghazi hearings, when he would be willing to talk to you, and he didn't have to, and he would just give it to you straight. That was certainly welcome and different. No wonder he didn't fit in.
He's good. He'd be a good member of a book club too, don't you think?
Oh no, book club member.
I think we're going too far here, Juan. I think the conflict is heightened because Republicans have learned from the Democrats on how to fight. Don't you think that's true?
No.
You guys were brutal. You guys
so
from the 60s were so
crazy.
Everybody you disagreed with was evil.
Wow.
Started with the Vietnam War.
Let's go back to the Civil War. But I'm just saying.
The Democrats, right?
Yeah. So
slavery.
But I don't see. I mean, to me, Trey Gowdy. By the way, I think very competent prosecutor. But what he did during Benghazi, 2 years of beating up on Hillary Clinton and then coming to conclude there's nothing here. I mean, I don't understand it. I like the fact that he now says you don't have to, turn your opponents into devils. I think, boy, but now he's leaving. And he's won, by the way, Jesse, unbelievable to me, but 41 Republicans who are leaving this Congress, 9 committee chairmen, including people like Trey Gowdy, who does have respect. As I say, I don't like what he did with Benghazi, but he does have some respect as a man who knows the law, a man who could have been one of President Trump's considerations for Attorney General. But now you see all these people fleeing, and guess why they're fleeing? There's an erratic president, and there's a chance the Democrats are going to have a big November this year.
Jesse, can you tie this into the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't think Gowdy's leaving because he's going to lose his seat.
No.
I like the hair shots. Can we put the 6 hair shots back? I want to pick my best one. I think the one on the upper left, if you want to DVR it back, was probably the best look. There it is right there with the scruffy goatee. In terms of the Benghazi hearings, Juan just said that, nothing ever came of it. Basically, we found out that they didn't protect the consulate on 9/11's anniversary, couldn't save our own men and women because they didn't have assets in place, and then lied to the American people and to the victims' families to their face and said it was about a video when they knew all along it was a terrorist attack. I actually think he got to the bottom of that. He looked relieved because all you do is dial for dollars. I heard they put you in a room for 4 hours a day and you fundraise. That sounds terrible. I mean, the swamp stinks. I'd want to get out of it too. He's probably going to get a nice paycheck pretty soon.
Uh-oh. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
A special surprise edition to Team USA's Olympic delegation. That's next.
It touched a lot of hearts to see the parents of Otto Warmbier at President Trump's State of the Union address last week. Their son's memory honored at the Capitol. Otto's tragic story retold again to shine a light on the brutality and grave threat posed by the North Korean regime that tortured him. This week, Fred Warmbier will travel to the region with Vice President Pence to attend the Olympic opening ceremony in South Korea. Mr. Pence says Fred and his wife remind the world of the atrocities happening next door. And Greg, I think this is a real show of diplomatic strength because the South Koreans are apparently laying it on real thick to welcome the North Koreans and make them feel all good about we don't want to normalize. So bringing Mr. Warmbier with him the vice president is basically forcing all of the media to cover that story.
No, it's a powerful symbolic gesture, and it perfectly counters the inclusion of North Korea and its propaganda pep squad that they're going to be putting up there. So every time North Korea is up there at the opening or closing ceremonies or whenever they have athletes participating, the networks are going to show the dad as a reminder of what the world is like under the rock of that hermit kingdom. We have to turn that rock over because you're going to see the best part of that rock during the ceremony. So you got to remind there's bugs under that.
Yeah. Jesse, what do you think?
I think it's good when you use people and their personal stories as a rallying cry for a policy or something like that. We had the Kate Steinle situation, and you had Kate's Law. You had Jessica Lunsford, and you had Jessica's Law. And now Otto, I think, is a perfect person, his father, to go out there and remind everybody about how disgusting and despicable the regime is. We haven't really had a situation like this since the Cold War, where the Olympics had that more, that nationalistic competition, even though North Korea is not really competition, we'll wipe them out. But it really kind of hones the country's and the world's attention around evil. And it was the evil empire back in the 70s and 80s, and now it's this evil axis of evil, one of them, regime up there. And I just hope he's not being used. A lot of people say this guy's being used, he's being exploited. He's not. He's in this. He wants to be a part of this, and I'm glad Mike Pence extended the invitation.
Yeah, well, and what about that? As a father, he basically is saying, I'm going to take this opportunity to try to prevent this from happening to anybody else.
I don't know that he can prevent it, but I mean, boy, what a horrible story, and what happened to his child is it's unbearable. So, I mean, if he wants to go, feel free. The question to me is, what are we setting ourselves up for, going forward? There have been stories about how the Pentagon has been criticized by the White House for not sending over possible military scenarios, and then you hear from the back that the generals don't want the White House to act precipitously in terms of attacking or giving a bloody nose to North Korea, and even somebody who was under consideration to be the ambassador opposed that kind of policy and then withdrew his name from consideration. But I know that from what we've been told, the North Koreans are going to have big military parades and going to make a show of power, in addition to which they're marching in with the South Korean delegation. So, it looks to me like there will be all this pretty gauzy stuff about North Korea at this moment. And I think warm beer would serve as a nice antidote to that.
Yeah, I agree. Kimberly, last thought to you.
Yeah, it was a really moving moment. I found myself just, looking at the family and really looking at their faces and looking in their eyes, and you can just see the palpable, the pain, the suffering, the loss, and just the way his mom's face looked, that how it's still so real. Every morning when she wakes up and every night when she goes to bed, it's her first and her last and final thought. And his father looking over at his wife. I mean, it's unspeakable, but I applaud President Trump for doing so much to try to get him home, and at least they did get to see their son one final time. I think they're, incredibly symbolic of the American spirit and of patriotism, and that, we're all tied and connected in this together. And it's a very real reminder of the savagery of the North Korean regime that we should never forget about.
All right, indeed. Okay, we're going to move on. Jimmy Kimmel has a theory on why so many late-night hosts are liberals. Conservatives aren't smart enough to do his job.
Oh.
That one next.
I want to you. Oh, no, I want to you.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a late-night host these days who's not taking constant cracks at Republicans. Why so many liberals? Jimmy Kimmel has a theory.
It also just so happens that pretty much every late-night talk show host is a liberal, and that's because it requires a measure of intelligence. Not a ton, not a tremendous amount of intelligence, but you do have to be over the baseline.
So, is he implying that the conservative side of the country is stupid, unintelligent? Appears so. What do you think, Greg?
First of all, that's what happens when you're in a comfortable space. He's being interviewed by these wonky beta male fanboys, so he kind of goes a little bit further than maybe he wouldn't. Yeah. But this is also what happens when you come to politics late in life. It creates a false confidence that's inversely proportional to your actual knowledge.
That's so true.
It is. It's like he's only sure of his stance. He's only sure of his stance because he hasn't move from the emotional position to a factual position. Everybody's like this. I was like this in my 20s when I got into politics. I thought, and also both sides are guilty of this. They rely on the intelligence insult. I look at tweets about Juan. Like, if they don't like what Juan says, they call him an idiot, which is not an argument. It's not an argument. And clearly, Juan is not an idiot. He's a very intelligent person. So it's rather than call somebody an idiot, which the left does and the right does, you might want to envision yourself on the other side and try to make a strong argument for their argument and then take it apart, which is a lot smarter than this. But
they teach you that in speech and debate.
That's true. It's called the Steel Man. But he's in an immature portion of his political life, and maybe he might grow out of it. You're seeing in the world of podcasts the mix between right and left, people interviewing each other, not getting, like, everybody treating each other with respect. Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, the Weinsteins, they all work together, and they don't second guess the intellectual superiority. They don't try to say that they're intellectually superior. And I think that's what he needs to learn, and he probably will or not. Who knows? Who cares?
So, Kimberly, he actually had on conservatives, people who disagree with, a pathway to citizenship for the DACA, for the Dreamers, and had them talk to Dreamers. So it seems like, he's willing to hear from the other side.
Yeah, well, but that's not him. Yes, it's his show, but that's not him actually doing it. But look, I think this is really just about kind of ratings and developing his own niche. Like, he's actually been able to do quite well. He started to resonate, remember, during the healthcare debate, and he was taking on some conservatives, and that became sort of his area, his sweet spot, where he seemed to generate some buzz and some interest. So you're seeing him continue down this path just because it's proved to be successful for him, and there's dividends that have paid off, and I think it's really that simple and formulaic.
So, Jesse, he has said, if conservatives don't like his criticism of Donald Trump, don't watch.
That's fine. You can change the channel. Watch Fox. I support that. He was doing the Man Show before this. Does anybody remember the Man Show?
Very popular.
I don't think that was very highbrow. He was like bouncing on trampolines with women in bikinis.
But they had Adam Carolla, who was awesome.
Yeah, he was good too. It takes wit, and it takes a good personality and decent interviewing skills to be a late night host. But let's be honest, network executives hire people in the comedy and entertainment space, and most of them happen to be liberals. It's just most conservatives don't go into that space for different reasons. So I don't think it's very deep, but I do think he's getting a little cocky because he did, land some punches with the healthcare deal. But in all honesty, I might actually have to invoke the View card now because I do want to be on his show eventually. So I'm going to hedge and say he's very great.
What would you be on his show about? This is very interesting.
Maybe things go well for me here at Fox, and he might invite me one time.
So
things are going badly right now?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm good enough at this point to get the invite.
Oh, come on. We're going to
I would just say that some of the funniest people I know are conservatives, and they're smart. You can't be funny without being smart.
I think that's so true.
So why is it that none of the hosts are conservatives?
I don't know, but that's like saying why
GG show, mister.
It also says why don't conservatives go into academia? There's just choices.
Okay.
Well, but also because they have all the entertainment people and the liberal Hollywood guests go on there, so that's why.
Good point.
That's a great point.
One more thing's up next. Stay with us.
It's time now for one more thing. Greg, here's how I lost my voice last night. Okay, and I made a bet with Martha McCallum, and here it is, and you will see the results tonight on her show.
It is a good match.
It's going to be good.
And the Patriots is
It's going to be good. And you know what? If the Eagles win, I think you should wear an Eagles jersey on the set. How about that?
All right, I'll do that. I'll do it for the last block.
Okay, and for my last block on the 5, I will wear a patch.
I like this.
I won't be doing it, but for the interest of the wager. And I was right. I will not be doing it because they had a great game.
Such confidence, But by the way, just so you know, she can't stop winning because she was actually there.
She was. I was not. It's fine. I enjoyed myself.
Oh, it's me.
Go ahead, KJ. Chew your food.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't hear her chewing
I'm trying to do it. Doritos has announced plans to release new tortilla chips, especially for the ladies. These female-friendly versions of popular chips will make less of a crunch noise when you eat them. Actually, I like like that. They're going to be a little bit smaller in size, and the single-serve bag will be able to fit inside your purse.
Are you serious?
They should be called Doritos, not
Absolutely
Doritos.
good.
Yeah.
Doritos.
That's sexist.
So,
That's
Indra Nugent, the global chief executive of Pepsi, who owns Doritos, thinks that unlike men, women do not like to crunch loudly.
Well, I don't mind if I crunch. I just don't like to listen to other people crunch.
Yeah.
That is true. All right, Greg Gutfeld.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. All right, time for this. Greg's Mail It In Monday. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. Just roll it. This is a huge stag dropping by a Scotland Hotel's bird feeder for a snack. I really don't have much to add to this other than I really wasn't that picky about my one more things today. And,
That's amazing.
Deb offered this
Welcome
one.
to my world.
Yes.
Did they
There you
eat
go.
the bird? I mean, that was weird.
I don't know.
All right,
Anyway,
speaking
that was
of
neat.
Mail It In one day one.
All right, here we go. So nutritionists always tell you, stay away from the fast food. But guess what? It turns out one of America's guilty pleasures might come with some health benefits. Japanese scientists are now using a chemical found in McDonald's French fries to grow hair. The chemical is used to stop cooking oil from foaming. So far, researchers have only used it on ball mice, but they believe their groundbreaking findings may also work on people, so you can be fat, greasy, and hairy.
Now you have food in your hair instead of hair in your food.
There you go.
I thought we were going to get family pictures.
All right, I'm going to supersize it.
All right, so here's what I'm doing today. You know, I don't really cook at home, but I got a great new cookbook from our friend Dion, one of our colleagues here. His friend Christine Filardi has written a book, Home Cooking for Your Dog, and it's got everything in there, like Fido's fish cakes, potluck polenta, peanut butter and coconut cakes. I actually think that I might do this.
Oh, my God.
Really?
You're going to cook it for Peter or Jasper?
No, just for Jasper.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that it's
Cooking for your dog.
Shannon Bream
This has
cooked for
gone
her
too
dog,
far.
and it was a lab, and it lived to be almost 18.
You know, a lot of people do this.
Yeah.
They even grind bones.
Okay, speaking of, special report up next.